Hey everyone, and welcome to the HR Vision podcast. I'm your host, Ivo, and every week I'm going to have a conversation that matters about HR. This week I have a very special guest with me, directly from the Big Apple, New York. I have Joseph Ifiegbu. Hey Joseph, how's it going?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Joseph is the founder and CEO at Eqtble, an HR analytics platform. He has an extensive experience in data science, HR tech, and people analytics. So today we're going to talk about HR data and the importance of people analytics. I'm very much looking forward to it, Joseph. Thank you so much for coming in. I'm very excited.
Oh, then thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat about HR analytics today.
Cool. All right, so let's get to it. We start always with every guest by asking them to introduce them. Just tell us about who you are and a bit of your background.
Yeah, so I am one of the co-founders and CEO of Eqtble. Eqtble is a HR technology, HR analytics platform, and really, my background is in data science, people analytics, right? So I work as a data scientist my whole career. I've worked in different sectors. I've worked in like sports analytics, health analytics, e-commerce, retail, research, and about 5 or so years ago, I got into HR analytics. I worked at WeWork. I was the head of people analytics for 3 years there at WeWork, and I also worked at Snapchat, leading the HR technology team as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit about my background.
That's a very interesting background indeed. I'm very interested to know, data was always your passion, I guess. How did that happen? First of all, why did you become so interested in data? And then my follow-up question will be that transition from data to people analytics.
Yeah. So I studied math and statistics in school, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was it for me. Like it was. Math was one. I played sports. I played sports.
Yeah. Which
math.
sport? Soccer, I believe, yeah. Right? Yeah.
Soccer, yeah. So those were the two things I was really good. I was always been good at soccer and just always been good at math. And so, in school, I actually was thinking I was going to maybe go get a PhD at some point in math or statistics. And that was because I didn't really quite know what I was going to fully do with it. I was like, I know I'm good at this, and maybe I'll just go get a PhD and do something like that. And so after my undergrad, I got this job, and my boss at the time said to me, he's like, you should go do your master's in statistics and like focus on data science, and because that's going to be massive. We're seeing this trend.
All right.
And then he saw me and looked at it, research. I was like, well, this actually is looking really cool. And I went and I studied that. And then from once I got in, I started, studying and like seeing what I could do with data science. I was hooked. I was just like, wow, this is what I want to do for the rest of my career. And I just enjoy it, just using, working with Python, R, and all these other tools to solve problems, getting massive amounts of data. I just enjoyed just kind of that creativity that came with it. And that was it. And I've not stopped since.
Yeah, I see. I can see. But what was pulling you was that solving problems, using data to solving issues within whatever that issue may be, right? That was the thing that pulled you in.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, right? The look on someone's face when you just give them some insight that they've not known about before.
Yeah,
that feeling was incredible, right? But it's like you just take this essential garbage, which is just data that is just numbers, like it's not I can do it.
Yeah,
and then you take it and you do this whole magic, and then you get this analysis and insights. And then you deliver that, and then someone's like, "Oh wow, that is good," and start asking more questions. That feeling was so good, and I was like, "I want to feel like that all the time." Whereby you're finding things that someone else didn't know existed, right? That was what was pulling me towards that solving problem, that hidden thing in there. That was why I really went into it.
Awesome. Now let's let's go a step further, which is taking that data science background into people analytics. How did that transition come about? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I like to always say I got into people analytics by mistake.
By mistake, okay.
By mistake, right? So at the time I was in a Toys R Us. I was a data scientist, doing a lot of the just e-commerce retail analytics. And one of the things actually we were doing, and I did in the role, was actually something we call like a lot of the market basket analysis.
Okay.
And what that was is, you are, for example, if a mom comes to a store and buys a feeding bottle for the baby, what is the probability that they'll buy a pacifier? Right.
Okay.
And so we would see that usually, for example, like a mom that buys a feeding bottle has a high probability, 85% likely, let's say, to buy a pacifier. And so we're looking at these patterns of behavior of shopping. And then what we will do is we'll put the pacifier right next to the feeding bottle in the store.
Yeah.
To increase that, because like typically that's what they would buy. Someone that buys this would buy this, right? And so we do things like, or like we'll place the toys not at the parents' eye level, but at the children's eye level, because they're the ones that, And so we had all these things where you're trying to understand behaviors of shopping. And so that was people behaviors, but in this shopping environment. So I really started thinking about like just how people make behaviors and how you use data to really change or influence that and things like that. It was really interesting projects that we worked on. And so when I started to look for a new role, and then I went online and I run across this people analytics. I'm like, what is people analytics? I mean, we are doing technically analytics about people.
About people, yeah.
Right. And so I started reading about it. So I'm like, oh, this is a bit different from what I thought. This is interesting, right? And I'm like, okay, I'll apply for this. I never thought I'll be in HR. Like that's never something like Yeah. And so I applied for it. And then when I went for the interview, the hiring manager was saying, look, this is what we want to build. We have all these HR systems. We want to bring everything, into a place we can tell stories and visualize. Right now, we don't have anything. I'm like, oh, okay, this is really cool. It's a different domain. And then I was like, I can do it because it was something different. It was challenging.
Yeah.
And that was really how I got it. And I got the job, and then that was it. And I just started learning and growing in the role. And that's really how I got into HR analytics.
Yeah, no, I see. It's an interesting path. A lot of things in life, I think, happen by accident, and sometimes they are happy accidents, right? So it seems the case, because now you work at an HR analytics platform company. So I guess you got bitten by the HR bug, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that was what it was. Like, once I got into the HR space, I just enjoyed, like, you could almost in real time, right, see what the value that you're providing. Like, you can do an analysis, and then you can say, hey, look at this. This is what we comes to pay, and you can actually change that immediately. Like, you can see the changes that not just you do some analysis and it's just like gathering dust somewhere on their, in someone's drawer somewhere. No, this is something that you do an analysis, and you can see that change enacted. And I just love that about it. And then it has to do with people as well, right? Because you do the analysis, but there is this conversations that has to go on. There are certain things that you have to do that involves people. And so I really enjoyed, that the two sides of that coin, in a sense.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. Before we dive a bit more into people analytics, I would just to ask like a general question to you. What when we're talking about people analytics and data, a lot of times the idea is that it's for bigger companies, and it's for more tech savvy, behind the desk kind of companies. In your view, in your expertise, do you think a small company should also be using data analytics, and why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of people analytics is just really using using numbers to help you inform decisions, right? That's simply what it is. Like, I mean, I know there's the more cool stuff, using ML and all this cool stuff. And yes, I mean, that is a part of it. I mean, but maybe only a handful of companies are really doing something that advanced. So I think at the core of it, it's just using numbers to help inform, right? Rather than just without numbers, just using your gut feeling. And so I think small companies, you're a 50% company, you're a 100% company, absolutely. Like if you're trying to make certain decisions, okay, you're trying to make decisions around pay, yes, you should use data to inform if you are actually having some disparity in your pay or not. Like if you're looking at engagement, you're 100% company, you're looking at engagement numbers, see the trends in that. Are you trending up? Are you trending down? Are you remaining the same? How's your culture being affected? At the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. So I think you're not like people analytics per se is not limited to big companies. As long as you have people, you start getting a good enough amount of people, then yes, you need people analytics to help you make better decisions.
No, I think that's a good point, because I believe sometimes there's some not prejudice, or, small business, they are focusing in other things, trying to grow the business, and people is not the first thing that comes to mind, and especially like looking into data regarding people. So that's why I was asking, but you just gave a right answer, right? Even with small things like pay, you can look into that data. At least you don't need to do it, to look into the big complex things around HR analytics, but you can start with small things, and data should be integrated even with small business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The next thing that I had for you was, sometimes there's this idea, or maybe a fact, that everything that is directly related, or that you assume that is directly related with growth of the company, you change it quickly. But when it comes to people, it takes some time. People-related issues often take some time. Why do you think is that? Why do you think? I believe we can agree that people are one of the most valuable assets that company has, right? Why do you take so much time? Why companies often take so much time to change people-related issues compared to other issues within the company, like, sales, marketing, those things?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a variety of issues, right? I mean, humans are really complex. And then when you now bring, just one person, they're complex in their thoughts and their decisions, and then you bring two people, that's exponentially more. And then you bring 3, 4, 5, and then you have an ecosystem of different ideas and thoughts and philosophies and all of that. And then you bring in things like hierarchy and leadership and all of those things. Things like egos and all of, like, there's so many things that affect that. So let's say that you find an issue and you have to change it. I've seen situations where, changing this one thing might affect my team as a leader. So why should we change it? And so there's so many. It could be ego.
Yeah.
It could be fear, like fear of the unknown, fear of change. We've had this. I've been in this company for 10 years. We've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Why change it now? Because that's going to affect me. So there's ego, there's fear. I mean, this, and so it's that's what it is, right? Like, that's when it comes to people. A lot of times it might be hard, but I feel like with companies, I think it's all about going back to the why. Like, okay, why are we building what we're building? What are our values, right? Because if we're tying decisions based on the values, okay, here's the values that we have, right? Here are the values that we have. Any decision that we make being tied back to that value, then you can actually enact change. But if decisions are essentially made different from what the values from what the values the company has, then it makes things hard to change, right? So I think that's one of the things. Just really tying everything back to the value, tying everything back to the mission. Make sure everyone understands what we're trying to do, and I think that's kind of how you can make that easier.
Awesome. That's an awesome insight. Cool. And how do you think, following up on that, how do you think data can help there? How can data be able to enact change to help people understand that this maybe is needed because the data is showing that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think data can really just show you where you're lacking, right? But I mean, beyond that, like, it's one thing to see the data, but I think it goes back to something you were mentioning, right? You can see the data, but like there has to be, there's the people element of it. You have to take steps, right? So I think showing data is no longer enough, right? There has to be actionable steps. There has to be things. Okay, well, yes, the data, but here are the things that we've seen. Here are the recommendations, and then the decision makers have to now take those insights and have actionable steps to actually change stuff. So I think data shows you. I think what you get from data, it shows you where you could be lacking, right?
Yeah.
However, I think the power of data is the decisions that you make off of it, not just seeing it itself.
Yeah. No, that's. I think that goes also to one thing that I was listening you to on another podcast. It's about also using the data to gain insights, but tell stories to enact change. That's the main thing, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's what we're building.
Yeah.
Right? It's like for us, you see there's so many systems.
Yeah.
There's so many HR technologies out there. I mean, people are tired of seeing but at the same time, with the amount of HR technologies out there, there's even more gap between data and systems and actual insights. And so what we've done is, okay, we've built these connections, we built these integrations to be able to connect to these systems, bring that into one place, create the right data structures, and then tell you a story, enable you to tell your own stories so you can actually enact change. And I think that's kind of where a lot of tools should be moving towards, whereby it's like, I'm not just showing like stale dashboards, here are numbers. No, okay, well, what am I doing with these numbers? What is it going to do for me? Can I take it a step further? Can we take it a step further and say, okay, here are the things we've seen. Here are the places that we're doing well. Here are the places that we're not doing well. Here are some recommendations. Here are things that we can do, X, Y, Z. And here are things that you should do, and then take those steps further. And I think that's kind of where data becomes useful, essentially.
No, definitely. I cannot agree more. Another question for you, based on a podcast that I listened to. I'm paraphrasing, so don't take it as take it as it is. So I believe you said something around start building your data foundation when you're at 120 employees, because at 2,000 you're a bit too late. You said something to those lines. Do you think, why is that, first of all, but do you think it's just harder because you have so many people, so many egos, so many things that it's hard to peel that off and build a system that works with people data?
Yeah. I mean, at 2,000, it's harder, right? It's exponentially harder.
Yes.
You can do it. You should look. Wherever you are, start wherever you are now. So if someone is listening to this and says, "Oh, we're 2,000," start there. If you're 100, start there. Right? Start there. Right? Like, don't be like, "Oh, 2,000, well, I can't do that anymore." No, start there. Do something. Right? Like, I think why I said at 100, start at 100, 120. It's because it's a lot less people.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier then. Right? You pretty much almost know everyone's names. I mean, right? And that's simply what that is. At 2,000, that's like, what, 20x that, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so you're not introducing, you probably have more systems, there's more hoops to jump, more, just like more people to go through in terms of decision making, more egos, more XYZ. There's so much more there. And then frankly, if there was a problem at 100, at 2,000, that problem has expanded.
Yeah.
So much more, right? And so, that's basically why I just said to comments, like at 100, it's so much easier to do that. Then that way you create the right foundation, you have cleaner data, cleaner infrastructure, so that when you scale to 2,000, it's not problematic at that stage, essentially.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
looking at at HR analytics, people analytics, everything that you worked on, I would like to ask you, what do you think are the main KPIs in HR? That we should all be paying attention to. Do you think are the main KPIs within a company that you look at that will drive the most growth or engagement within your teams?
I mean, it varies, right? Like beyond the core things, everyone looks at time to hire, time to fill, headcount growth, those kind of things, right? There's so many of those things people look at. And I think it varies. Like there's certain things that affect the company that another company they don't really think about, right? But I think the conceptually what people should be looking at is you should be looking at things in a time series format, in a sense where here's what we are now. How over time, how have we improved, or how worse are things? And then based on where we are, if we continue this way, where are we going to be? So if you're looking at your attrition, you saw that, we increased attrition by 1% every month for the last 12 months. You're seeing the trend.
Yes.
Right? And so that's a story. It's looking you in the face. Like you were at 5% attrition in January. In December, you were at 17%. What happened?
Yeah.
Right. I think seeing things over time. Time is such a big thing here with when it comes to people analytics. Trying to see things, or any analytics, trying to see things over time, seeing trends. It's such an important thing. So I don't like when I just get a data point. This is this number. I'm like, okay, well, that's rubbish to me.
Give me the context, right?
I need context, right? And so seeing things like that, like in a time series over time, and then with whatever cuts you want to cut it over time, seeing that story, seeing things in a story format, it's so helpful because now it gives you that. So I think that's what everyone should be looking at. Look at your story. Look at the timeline of things, of events, of promotions, of your engagement scores, of your attrition, of your growth, of your burn, spend, whatever that is, right? Looking at that story over time helps you understand what could be going on and what you could do to change them. And that's what I would suggest to organizations.
All right. That's very, very sensible and very insightful. Because I think sometimes people just don't have the patience. They want to look at the numbers and just in a month-to-month basis, and you don't give it time to create that story, to create that trend, to understand the context. Okay, because maybe you're up 5% in attrition this month, but if you look at, oh my God, it's 5%, but then next month it's 2%. Mm-hmm. So like, I really like that insight in terms of time, being patient to tell the whole story. Mm-hmm. I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just looking a bit into what Equitable does, I would like you to tell just a little bit about you guys and what you're trying to do. Of course, you already explained a little bit, trying to bridge the gap between data and insights. But tell us just a bit more so people out there can know what Equitable is doing.
Yeah, for sure. For us, I think the goal for us is really speed to insights, right? Speaking of stories, when we were at WeWork, right, we built our systems. We built all the pipelines, the solutions internally. We built everything internally because there were so many systems, and we had to figure out a way to bridge that gap. So we had to build all the pipelines to connect to all these different systems, bring that into one place, create this structure, and then we had a front end. We had a visualization tool that we used, right?
Yeah.
But that we spent about over a year and a half, and a couple $1 million really building out the team and the product and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we learned so much from that, right? But here's the interesting thing. From doing that, we said, look, a lot of companies, right, don't have the time or the resources to spend a year and a half and $2 million building this.
That's what I was about to ask. Yeah.
Well, we don't have that, right?
Yeah.
So can we create something that helps organizations do this cost effectively and quickly? And that's where Equitable came about. And so what we do and what we've built is a tool platform that connects to pretty much all your major HR systems, right? Your Workday, greenhouses, your leverage, your lattices, your culturums of the world. Connect to those tools. We bring that into our generic data model. And then we have a front end whereby we can tell you the story. And we enable you to tell your own stories about your organization. But the thing about that is it's quick, right? It's not a year and a half. It's not a 6 months. It's not a 3 months. You can do it like within less than a month, few weeks in some cases, and with some of our systems within hours. So all of a sudden, you sign up with us, within like a couple of weeks, boom, you have all your analytics about and this is different systems, and you bring that into one place. Now you can tell your story, connect your performance data to your attrition, to your diversity, and you tell in one place and tell a cohesive story. And that's what we do for organizations. Speed to insights.
Awesome stuff. Last question for you, a bit of a look into the future. What do you foresee in people analytics? Do you think there's still a lot of companies out there that need to work with data? What do you foresee? Do you think data will be more and more an undeniable assets for HR teams?
Yeah, I mean it's not going anywhere, right? Like we're not going away, right? This is I think people analytics is not a nice to have anymore. It's a must have. And I think companies that refuse to embrace it, I don't know. I think you're pretty much in the Stone Ages at this point, right? Or dark ages, I would say. But yeah, I think it's going to evolve. I think there's going to be more the push towards more actionable insights, the push towards data for change, the push towards really just using data to inform decisions, and then even just like not even being and not being reactive, but even more proactive, making sure that you have the right data in place from earlier on to be able to kind of remove problems that might even come up, right? So yeah, I think more and more teams are going to embrace it. I think you're going to see more and more tools, but at the same time, I think you're going to see more and more consolidation of tools as well, right? So you're starting to see some of that, right? Like you're starting to see like some of the big companies say, okay, we want to get this tool and buy this tool. So we're going to see more consolidation. Again, I think that's what it is, right? Because the nature of innovation is it expands before it contracts, right?
Yes.
It always happens like that. So you're going to see a lot of tools, and then you're going to start seeing consolidations here and there. Some tools will not make it. Some tools will become bigger. Purchase other tools. Like you're going to see a lot of that. And then over time, you're going to have certain tools that are the staples for doing certain things, right? You're already starting to see that right already in the industry. Like you see like pretty much like Workday, Greenhouse, Lever, Lattice. Like these are things that people like already are going towards for certain things, right? Yeah, I think just what it is, right? It's just the nature of innovation. But I think it's an exciting time in the people space. I think we're still in the beginning stages, really. Yeah. And I think there's so much more we can do in the space to help companies make better decisions about their employees.
That looks great. Just one more thing before I let you go. I'm sorry. Just wanted to have like a very kind of down to earth advice for people, for someone that is listening. They never did any people analytics. Just one insight or one advice, like how do I start?
Yeah, so
sorry about that.
It's a good question. It's a good question. Some of the people have asked me this quite a few times. And when I started people analytics, some in the initial stages, again, I am trained as a data scientist, but when I first came in, before I even started to code or do anything, I did basic stuff because at the time people didn't even have access to basic analytics. Yeah, I used Excel. All right. Excel and averages. I was able to just download data, start with Excel, and then start delivering and saying, "Hey, here's what we see." And people started to ask more questions, and they wanted things a little bit quicker and more automated. And then that's kind of when I now say, "Okay, well, we need to build this system. We need to do X, Y, Z." So if you want to start with where you are, right? Like, what are the issues? Start with the questions. Okay, what are the issues we're having right now? Right? Where are the gaps? Okay. You say, okay, these are the gaps. Okay, cool. With the tools that I currently have in place, what can I do to at least help solve a little bit of that, some of the problems? I have Excel. I can download this data set. All right, cool. Let me start from there. So I think starting from there and then starting to tell those stories helps build trust, helps build equity in their minds. And wow, this is really, really good. And then you can actually request for more money, more resources later. That's what I really did for the first 6 months. It was just me building things in Excel, and then like I downloaded the free Tableau reader, and I'll build the stuff and I'll share with people, and I'll tell them download Tableau reader so you can see it on your laptop as well. That's how I started, and then 3 years later I have an 18-person team. Right. So I think it's honestly, the truth is that just start where you are with whatever tools you have, and then grow from there. That's what I would say.
Awesome advice. Joseph, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. This was super insightful. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you did too.
Oh, this was awesome. This was fun. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on the platform.
No problem at all. We appreciate you coming on. So thank you so much. People listening out there, we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.